Good morning. I'm Leigh Smith. This is Roy Williams, and we're going to talk today about taming the Cessna 180, 185. Correct. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to jack the tail up till the prop touches the asphalt. And this is something that a lot of people have been concerned about. What's it going to take to hit the prop? What you're going to see as we jack the tail up and lift the tail up, the prop will actually, you think it's going to hit out here, the prop will actually hit back here is where it's going to touch. As it actually tucks as it comes down. You will literally slide out of your seat, as you will see here in a moment, if you get the prop. To get the prop, you'll scare yourself because you're looking down straight like this. Hopefully this will help with your wheel landings so you're not so reluctant to pin the aircraft. Now, back to pinning the aircraft. If you're bouncing, you don't pin the aircraft, you go around. Or you get back up in the air 3 feet, reset your pitch attitude, and come back down and land, which we will also do that later today. We will do 5 landings on one runway.
Do you have a preference of save the landing versus go around?
I say you get 1 free bounce, and depending on the length of the runway, you need to go around. So if you skip it or bounce it and can get it back on, fine. But if you get to the second bounce, you need to go around.
Okay. All right.
If it's a short runway, if it's a long one, and we will practice this, and this is something that a lot of folks don't practice, we'll get the airplane back 3 foot in the air, get it pitched back over, get it on the proper pitch attitude for a wheel landing, and come back down and touch. And we'll do 5 landings on a 4,000 foot runway doing that.
Perfect.
Okay. So let's do that.
Let's jack that tail up.
Yep. So we're going to lift the tail here so that you folks can see how far the prop has got to go in order for the prop to touch the ground. I want you to notice that where the prop is, people think the prop's going to touch the ground right here. And you're going to find out here, we're the 4th circle back, so I'll measure from that. The prop's going to actually touch the ground back here somewheres. And we'll show you what happens there. And we're going to lifting the aircraft on up. Go ahead, raise the aircraft. So again, Roy, tell me when you think the prop's going to hit the ground.
See, now this feels level right here at this.
Okay.
And how high is the tail off the ground at that point?
Its tail is quite a bit off the ground. You're way past a very fast wheel landing at that point with the bottom of the wing level.
Looks like the nose is low at this point.
Okay.
And what kind of clearance
and
do we have?
Keep going. That's 10 inches from hitting the ground.
Now right about there.
Okay, keep going.
Now see the wheels are starting to roll backwards.
Yep, it's okay. Keep going.
So obviously we're getting light on the tail now.
Keep going. No, it's all strapped down. You're good. Just keep going. You're fine. It's rolling back where it needs to. Keep going.
Okay, so now right there, what kind of height is on the tail? The tail
Height
wheel.
above the tail, stand by. I can walk underneath the tail. I can walk underneath the tail wheel. So the tail wheel is over 6 feet in the air at this point.
And then what kind of clearance do we have on the prop?
And you still have 3 inches of clearance on the prop. Still have 3 inches of clearance on the prop. Keep going some more.
I am extremely nervous.
Yeah, are you starting to slide out of the seat, Roy?
I feel forward, yes, forward pressure, yep.
And this is the point that people don't understand. We still have 3 inches to go for the prop to hit the ground. You can see that the prop has moved back 13 inches. And if we went all the way to the ground, I would expect it to move back another inch or 2. So the prop would have moved back about 15 inches to catch it. We're not going to go any higher at this point, but I think that this dramatizes the importance of how far you got to go to hit your prop. And you're literally sliding out of your seat.
Sliding out of the seat here, and then what kind of height is on the tail wheel?
The tail wheel is going to be, the stinger has got to be darn near 8 feet in the air because you've got a big tail wheel on this, so I'm going to the stinger. The stinger is over 7.5 feet high. And we're not even hitting the prop yet. The step is 32 inches. all bets are off if you're standing on the brake. The interesting thing is your seat's almost level, actually. It's the, I thought the seat would have been sloped down more.
Well, because it probably sits back like this.
Right, it does.
Anyway, so
it does. That's why it's interesting that I always was under the impression that the seat you'd be sliding out of your seat.
But you can feel it. I mean, you can feel forward. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's because the floorboards are falling. Your feet are dangling.
True. Exactly. Yep.
The seat's level. I always assumed that the seat would be sloped down. Right in here about is your wheel landing attitude.
So what kind of height is the tail at that point?
About 3 feet.
As a typical wheel landing.
Yeah, right there's a good wheel landing right there, attitude. A little bit on the lower side, slower side. So just a recap here. We've got the tail wheel on the ground, and this aircraft has got the large tail wheel. What is that on you have back here?
Tail wheel, landing gear works.
Which is a 500 by 5?
505.
505, so that's much larger than the average tail wheel. Our step now is 22 inches off the ground. When the prop was close to touching, the step was 32 inches off the ground. So the step was 22 inches off the ground with the tail on the ground, and when we were close to hitting the prop, we were 32 inches. The step was off the ground. The stinger was 7.5 feet in the air, and we still hadn't touched the prop. And the prop had actually moved backwards over 15 inches. And you can see that the prop kind of gets tucked between the main gears as this comes up on its nose. So, and the interesting thing that I learned today is that the seat was actually level, but the sensation you get with the floorboards being sloped down is that you're sliding out of your seat.
So only 10 inches difference of elevation here translates into over a foot of clearance difference up there and over 7 feet of tail wheel clearance at the back end. Is that correct?
Well,
when this is 10 inches higher.
Right. So right now you have 21 inches of prop clearance.
So over 20 inches then, well, almost 20 inches difference.
Yeah, you have 21 inches, but this is also a seaplane prop with a big tail wheel. So the small tail wheel would give me more prop clearance, and if we went to a 3-blade, we'd be smaller diameter with even more prop clearance. So to get a 3-blade to hit the ground, it would even be more pitched over more in order for the prop to hit. So what was your experience, Roy?
It felt really uncomfortable with that tail that high in the air, and of course it feels like you're looking straight down at the ground at that point, but yet you can see that very little difference in elevation in the cockpit translates into obviously large height difference at the tail, but still plenty of clearance up here at the front. And like you said, with a long prop and a big tail wheel, that clearance is reduced. So with a smaller prop, a smaller tail wheel, we'd have even more margin in there.
Correct, correct. The interesting thing is that this tail is so heavy that at any point into that point, if you're off the brakes, the tail will come back down. But if you're on the brakes, that's how you're going to get the prop. That's how you're going to put this airplane on its back. So there's no way to get the prop on into the dirt or the airplane on its back unless you're riding the brakes.
So the secret is to allow the aircraft to continue rolling forward.
Correct.
So there's no momentum going over on its back. Okay.
But that's because the tail is so heavy. And I can't state that enough. This tail is heavy and it's going to want to come down. So those bets are off on a Cub or any other aircraft that has a light tail. If you've got any restriction to the roll, the airplane's going on its nose.
Because the tail's so light on those smaller airplanes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, very good. Well, now that we have it mastered here in the hangar, maybe we should take the aircraft out and see if we can put this to use here.
Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go have some fun out here on the grass, and then we'll go over to the pavement as well.
Wonderful. Thanks, Leigh.
Thank you.